Today's episode of my podcast story, we have Dr. Foojan Zeine, the brilliant mind behind the podcast Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan. As an international speaker, author, and psychotherapist with over 32 years of experience, Dr. Zeine specializes in mental wellness, self-awareness, and innovative awareness integration theory, which she developed to help individuals overcome anxiety and depression. Her unique journey combines an extensive background in clinical psychology with a passion for integrating technology into mental health care. Exemplified by a groundbreaking Foojan App, Dr. Zeine has shared her insights at prestigious institutions like Harvard and UCLA, making her a sought-after voice in the field. She's here to share her inspiring journey on how she built her show from the ground up and how she's using her platform to empower listeners and transform lives.
I'm ready.
Okay. Tell us your name and the name of your podcast and what your podcast is about.
Sure. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, and my podcast is Inner Voice, the heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan.
Okay.
So I've been a psychologist and psychotherapist for 32 years. I coach, individual coach, life coach, executive coach, also for the same amount of time. So I've been on many of the media. I used to have a radio show. I had television shows. And then I just, shifted to bring the radio show into a podcast instead of it being a radio show. So one of the most important factors have been bringing information for the audience who are interested, let's say around 25 all the way to probably 50, 55. And anything that has to do with betterment of life, because I've experienced and I sit with people who, have a lot of suffering, whether mental anguishes or the relationships are not working, the relationships with themselves or their body isn't working. They go through trauma. So their outlook sometimes is very negative, and we need skills. So what I bring in my podcast are a lot of the professionals, especially authors, but authors of nonfiction, which they are writing about either their experiences or they're giving skills. They could be psychologists, sociologists, they could be scholars, or they could be people who write about their life, but they've gone through some hardship. They've come to the other side. They've learned some skills, and they wanted to share these lifetime skills with everyone else. And they've written a book. I have like 398 episodes. So we've been just bringing authors consistently from all walks of life, international people, from all over the world. They come in and share their wisdom and what they've learned through life, and they bring it to the audience and me, because I learn every day too.
Yeah. I think that's one of the privilege of being a podcast host is you get to ask your own questions too.
Yes, I ask them to send me the book and some of their knowing, so I get to educate myself about who they are and what they're offering and what their messages are. And a lot of them, because the topic is something that the past 30 years I've also worked with people, a lot of it I bring also my own stories where I've experienced with myself or my clients, or was it my journey or my client's journey, and we kind of bring all of these stories to life beside the skills.
Yeah. You said you mentioned that you had about 398 episodes of your podcast, and so the question I want to ask now is how old is the podcast?
The podcast is almost let's say I think it's like 2 years, because I was at the ABC radio and then I brought those into the podcast, so around 2.5 years.
Okay, I want us to like step back a bit because it's your case is quite peculiar because you have a background in I don't want to say background so that it doesn't look like you studied radio or any of those things, but you are what do they call people that have radio shows? What's the name for people that have their own radio shows? Let's just say you have a radio show. I don't know the name, what the name will be. But you have so how long did you have your radio show? Like how long did the show run for before you started?
That was also for 2 years. I've been in media Although I'm a psychologist, but because I've been in media, television also. I've had my shows on television for a long time, also in cable television. But the topic has always been kind of psychology and life skills. So it's always been about that. Everyone that has ever come in as a guest is, had to be um, talking either about their journey or their skills to bring it. So I've been in media since, let's say, 1960. No, I'm sorry, I was born in 1961. Since about 2016, I've been on television and then went on ABC radio and then, turned it since the podcast world got full and I brought it into the podcast world. Yeah, the my journey of being and presenting to the public has been has been a long journey. It's just that the mediums changed,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
like cable TV changed, and then radio was a good concept, and then the radio changed, and the podcast came in. So that's why just the skill stayed the same, but the medium changed.
yeah. What I'm curious, why did you switch from, you were doing radio, you've been in TV, why did you switch to podcasting? And if you when in fact when you decided to switch, why was it podcasting? I mean, you could have done something else, you could have done YouTube. There are other forms of media. Why
Well, the podcast also goes on YouTube, so it's not just audio; it is also video. So we sit down and we're having our conversation. It is getting recorded, so both goes out. It goes onto my YouTube channel and it goes into my podcast channel. And then I also offer the two links to my guests, so they also have the two links, and they can cut it or do whatever they want, edit it, and to create clips out of it and put it depending on what they're offering.
Yeah.
I think I think it was easier for podcasts because I personally listen to podcast when I'm driving. I listen to podcast when I'm exercising. There's a lot of times that I don't have, the bandwidth to actually sit down and look at a video. And I think like when you're doing production is different because there's entertaining, there's, background, there's all of it. But if it's just you and I sitting talking for an hour, what's the point of, what's the difference between like a YouTube or just listening it? Because there's not production happening that someone really needs to view it. I still do put it on YouTube because sometimes people like to see a face and some they like to see the facial expressions, and those are what's important for most of the people. But when two people are talking, is as easy as just listening to it while you're doing something else. It could be gardening, it could be exercising, driving, anything, and you would be listening to the podcast, which is an easier way of listening to long versions of a conversation. I think YouTube has turned into more, and then social media has turned into like a 3 second concept, and people don't even have the bandwidth to sit down and watch that. So that's why I think podcasts made sense to be able to have the audio version at people's disposal at any time that they needed it.
Yeah.
But the video is there too in case they want it.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube is it has a lot of purpose. Some persons discover their podcast on YouTube. Others, search for it and find it on YouTube too. Yeah. When you okay, when you switched to podcasting, what was your what was the purpose like? What was like the kind of like the real? Of course, there are a lot of reasons why you could have started your podcast, but what was like the real reason? Were you looking to, I don't know. I don't want to lead the question. I want you to like, share your reason. So I'm not going to give examples so I don't lead the question.
Why did I shift? I think that when I was even at the radio shows themselves were taking, because radio has only a certain amount of population that listens to it, and geographically it's limited.
Yeah.
So even when I was at the KBC, what I noticed is they would take the radio shows and put them on podcasts.
Oh.
So it's the same thing because when you are on podcast, you have people from across the world have the capacity to listen to you.
Yeah.
They can't do that with television and radio. You can't do that because it's geographically limited to wherever your location is. Podcast had created this way of anywhere from the world can listen to you. It's easy access. It's on, you could, anything you have Google or Apple phone, you could immediately tap into any of the podcasts. And you don't even have to, like, it doesn't have to be in Spotify or any particular place. It could just be, a free podcast that you're listening to. As I said, I personally, even television shows, like Bill Maher or some of these comedians that have the shows, I actually listen to them instead of watching them because, many times it's as funny as I'm listening versus having to watch them. So I think,
Yeah.
when you're watching a movie, where you're watching a television show that is not a dialogue necessarily, but it's it's action, and you need to look at things that are going back and forth. I
Yeah.
think the visual sense is needed. But if it's more of, talk shows where people are actually just sitting down and talking to each other, I think listening is as good as viewing. Again, you have both options because even at this point, we're putting our podcast on a visual sense too, but it's not necessary. The same as a television show is necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. So out of curiosity, right, just in case for those that are wondering how the radio and the TV sector works, when you said you were with the ABC radio station, right?
Yes,
Yeah. When you
KABC.
when you were with them, what was like? I know I as much I know you can't go into so much details, but as much as you would be legally permitted to to share with us, were you paying them to be on the show, or was it a mutual agreement, or were they paying you to be on the radio radio?
No, the televisions and the television show and the radio show were both sponsored by me. Yes, I was paying for slots because it
Oh,
was my show and I was actually doing it. You could get other sponsors, so I could always the contract was in a way that I could, instead of paying myself, I could get other sponsors to come in and pay for the show. But yes, I was responsible for that spot. I could bring any advertisement into it and
wow.
hold it, or I could pay it myself. I did not have any advertiser. I never went after advertisement because part of it was also I was advertising my own books, or I was advertising. I have created a psychology model, which I also put it in an app. So people can go to the Foojan app and be able to go through like journeys of guided journaling and going through the whole awareness integration process, and they can find improvement in their life around like what we've seen about up to 72% on every area that they work on. It's got guided meditation, it's got guided journaling, and it's got a lot of skills. And then we put an AI chatbot in it, so you could ask it question and it can answer you. So I'm my own advertiser because in between I put in all of the marketing concepts, whether it were one of my 5 books, or it's the seminars that I put in, or I go ahead and and for now I'm the app. So I was not getting any other sponsors for them. So I was supplying them. So obviously, when I went to podcast, the cost of running a podcast and producing the podcast for me was less than having it to be on the radio show because I could put all of these together. I could put my ads in the middle of them, and put them all on iMovie and put them all together and create a whole full thing with all of my own advertisement in there. So it was more cost effective, obviously,
Yeah.
because all I did was a Zoom and iMovie, and then and then put it on so a place that serves it, podcast
Yeah.
serves it. So that's how it brought the instead of paying between $500 to $600 per month, or sometimes more, to be able to do that in local cable televisions or the radio. This became much less uh, costly for me to
Yeah. I
be able
mean,
to do that.
the fact that you were paying for the slot, it also means that had to you retained the rights to your content, irrespective of the fact that it was aired on radio.
I did have the right to my content.
Yeah, so that was
Yeah,
why.
that was part of the contract. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you switched from radio to podcasting, did you um publish your backlog of episodes you've done on the radio on the podcast, or you just started afresh?
No, it started fresh
Yeah.
because I think that the radio was already putting those on another podcast.
Oh.
So it was already on a podcast. So if people just put my name, they could also get that. So I didn't necessarily need. It wasn't like the content wasn't getting lost. It was already in the radio podcast group. So anybody who put my name, they could have found it. So I started actually with just with the first one. I started going and holding the content for myself. Again, even with what the radio had, it was my content, but because they were already airing it on a podcast, it wasn't necessary for me to duplicate it.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. It all makes sense now. Well, now you started your podcast. Now it's going to 2 years since you made the switch from radio, TV to podcasting. How what's it like now? How's it going?
It's going pretty well. I schedule people I used to do this live. I used to actually, because I was on the radio and television, I was ready to do live all the time. And then with the podcast world, I actually got it that a lot of times, guests don't show up or something happens and they tell you the last minute. So what I started doing is now I have, I record and I'm about like 5 to 6 weeks ahead. So I record them and then I have them later because I air my shows every Monday. So what I do is I record every Monday and air every Monday, but they're not the same. So the
Yeah,
same thing
yeah,
that is being recorded on that Monday is not being aired. So I'm
yeah,
kind of about 5 to 6 weeks. So in case they don't show up, or in case something happens, in case I'm sick, in case something happens to me, that everybody is waiting for it on Mondays, they get it on Mondays.
yeah,
Um, so that's at this point what I'm doing. I've been known by a lot of now the publishing companies. So I have a group of publishers who knowing when the books for these authors are coming and they know what my audience and the type of conversations that I have, they tell me, they have their authors are coming. This is when the book is coming out, and they want me to feature their authors. So I'm getting a lot of requests from publishing companies and authors to be on the show. And then I'm, part of different groups, which they kind of like nudge and say I want to be. So um, if they are again having a conversation which is experience-based, science-based, it's about humanities, human life in any format that our experience on a journey of life that could support. And then I also do a lot of, psychologists and psychiatrists who also do work with mental illnesses if they've have books if they have skill set books. I also have the medical for anyone from the medical industry that comes that not necessarily just a physical body ailment, but it has something to do with stress and anxiety, depression, traumas. Um, they come in the spirituality, um, success, how to create success in your business. What do you do when you're kind of like falling down and you're going down and then you want to go back up. So all of those areas, there are published authors that are coming. So it's wonderful because right now I'm booked all the way to December. Um, and sometimes I have like two or three that I'm interviewing because they couldn't make it, so they want to reschedule, and I've already booked. So sometimes I even have like 2 to 3 per week that I'm um, having a guest and come in. So that part, because I've become known by the group, it's been easier because people want to be on my show. They kind of like knocking at the door to be on the show. That's what that is. I'm not monetizing on the shows because again, I'm using it as my own advertisement concept too. So instead of me paying for others to do marketing, obviously this is also my own marketing. But there's also ways of monetizing, and I've been told that I should monetize it in different ways. And, we'll look at that in the future.
Yeah.
But the purpose of it was more offering information to the world so that they have this type of information and have access to it anywhere. And the podcast is being listened to internationally. I have from UK, France, Germany, Australia, Middle East, Dubai, Iran, Canada, a lot from Canada, all over United States. I've had from Japan, from China, Indonesia, Malaysia. So it's interesting that it's become a very global market as they hear it and listen to it.
Yeah. Wow. Um, series of questions are just like popping up in my head. First question: would you be so kind, and if you're not comfortable with it, you can just let me know. Would you be so kind as to like give us like a sense of what the download numbers look like right now? Like,
Oh, download is about 22,000,
wow,
23,000. Yeah,
per episode or per month?
per month.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow.
episodes depends. Episodes are really depends because, some episodes, depending on what the title is or where the person is, and, they also obviously market themselves. So you could see like a hype within the same week, and then it's kind of trickles down within the rest of the month for that particular episode because the same time I'm sending it out, those people, the guest is also sending it out. So we get a boost of a lot of listeners within the same week and then comes down. But
Yeah,
that's what I know. And then I don't know of what I also have about 67 to 70,000 based on my own social media group,
wow,
which they
wow.
also see that on they see it download. They're not necessarily downloading it, they're also seeing it. So they could be seeing part of it but not necessarily downloading
Yeah,
it.
impressions. Yeah, yeah. You mentioned that you have a YouTube channel. Like, YouTube is like usually I consider YouTube as a separate, thing entirely from the podcast. So how's the YouTube like? Um, are you monetized on YouTube?
I haven't monetized there either. We're raising it to the numbers for the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel at this point I think we have over 1,000 followers. Uh, and the downloads again depend on the show and whatever they have within impressions. But yeah, we're working on the YouTube, also we're working on the TikTok with the small, parts of this to go out. And then if they like it, then they can go back and either download the podcast or the YouTube.
Yeah. Before we go into the how you monetizing your podcast, currently, are you the one? Do you have someone helping you to produce the podcast, or is it just you that does the editing and everything?
Yeah, I don't even do editing. It's very easy. Like I have, yeah, I made this into a very simple concept. I get on Zoom and I turn on the video and I tell them from before that they need to have their lighting and all of that ready. I have a background that if they want to use my background, they can. If not, they can have their own background. And so I put recording and I start with them. We have our conversations around 40 minutes. I wrap it up and, do an ending and I end the recording. I say goodbye to them and then I turn on recording and I do the opening of the show. And then that's it. Those are the two pieces that are then. And then I get iMovie, the app iMovie, and I open it up I have a Mac. So I
Yeah.
put it on the Mac and then I have like a small logo from the front. I put the logo in. I put the intro in. I put all of my own advertisement for my books and app and all of that in. I put in the interview and then a closing logo. And then I movie to just put it all together and create an MP4. And it
Wow.
does. And then
Wow.
after that, I ask it to give me the audio or, MP4A, and it does. And those two are saved. Those two are saved. And then when the day is that I need to put that up, I go to the YouTube channel and put that up and put the description. And at this point, it's been easy also because Zoom has an AI companion. So you can put in also the AI companion and it gives you a whole summary. So now I go after that, go to YouTube channel, upload this, and I put, the bio and the person who I'm meeting with, and then the summary of our conversation into it, and that's it. Like it goes onto YouTube, and then I go to the podcast location and I do the same. I put it on there, and and then I'll take the links of those, the podcast and the YouTube, and I send it to the author. I let him know that today there's going to be aired. So if you like, you could do that. And then my team who does my marketing take the YouTube, and then they do different piece with it. Like they'll do clips of it, and then they blast it all over the social media.
Wow. For me, hey, just a quick break. If you enjoying the insights so far and want even more behind the scenes ideas, inspiration, and tools for growing your own podcast, join my email list at mypodcaststory.com/join. That is mypodcaststory.com/join. You get access to helpful resources, exclusive updates, and the kind of stuff I only share with my email subscribers. Whether you're starting out or already podcasting, there's something valuable waiting for you. Head over to mypodcaststory.com/join and subscribe. Now, back to the episode.
Easy, dude. Made easy.
Yeah, for me, when you were just mentioning everything you were using, for me, I was counting the number of tools because, as much as possible, I like to keep the number of apps, the number of tools I use for my process minimal as much as possible. Because every time you move from one app to another, that's another time spent, another, it's a different thing entirely. Wow. So you use Zoom and then you use iMovie. And by the time you're done with iMovie, your podcast is basically ready to publish. Wow. Wow. And yeah. Wow. That's nice. Like you're handling everything yourself. Wow. Oh, that's
Zoom is very easy. Like I've known people who use other concepts, and it's like, why? Zoom is very easy to use. My iMac has a camera on its own, which is a really good camera. And I have, a microphone here that I got, and it's attached. And that's all. I have two round lights, which are right there, in my face. And that's it. So we got the lights, we got the, camera, we got the mic in, ready to go.
Yeah. Like having that setup, and I'm guessing that that setup is permanent. So it's just when you need to record, you just sit on that magic seat, and boom, you start doing your thing. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah. All is well, all is ready. Yeah.
and
And yeah, I don't even use Calendarly. It's like, yeah, because that one is like I don't have time to keep going back and forth to figure out what, because my clients change. I keep changing them client hours. So I don't even use that. It's more like I send them an email, this is your time, and confirm as soon as possible, and they confirm, and within the same thing is I put everything also in one document. This is what time you're coming. This is what I need from you. Your bio, your picture, a copy of your book or a PDF of your book, your talking points. These are what I need. This is your Zoom link. I'll meet you at that time. And then, disclaimers such as this is going to be audio, video, figure out your everything. You need to be presenting yourself. So, if it's shown up everywhere, you don't say why my hair was like that, why my, light was like that. Like, think about this because this is going to be video. And I put also the release by coming to my show. You're already giving me the release that I can show it everywhere. I own the content. I own my content and I'll put it everywhere. And, confirm as soon as possible. And that's all. Like that happened. It's given to them. And with the video, with the email, they just send me all of their information, a picture, talking points, copy of the PDF of their book, and that's it. That's all I need.
Wow. I mean, it's strange because in a way, if you want to do something and something is really important to you, you will get it done irrespective of what you have. Because now you're not even using Calendly, and a lot of persons say, "Oh, I can't use I can't afford Calendly. I can't use Calendly. That's why I can't book guests." And I'm like, you're doing it the old-fashioned way, and the stuff gets done, and that's what matters.
Yeah, half of the time people are doing Calendarly and they still have to use email because all the Calendarly does is create something, creates a message for you. I'm like, I don't allow them to say when they're coming to my show. It's me who's telling them when you can come to my show.
Yeah.
And they can say no. I mean, there are a lot of people who says, thank you so much, but I'm not available at that time. If they say they're not available, I'll give them another time. If they're constantly are not available, then maybe we're not a good match. But, it's easier for me to be in control that way versus I just feel less in control with Calendarly because I got to keep updating Calendarly of what I'm available and what I'm not. And it's like, no, I know on my calendar, I don't need to go and, tell the Calendarly when I'm available. So it makes it much more efficient for me to just, somebody says, I want to be on your show. And I will look at my program and say, this Monday at this time, I'm available, that's my first opening.
Yeah.
And because it's kind of like months ahead, most people can say, I can book that time because right now I'm booking for December. So you can imagine.
Yeah.
I'm sure they can handle December at this point. If you really, really want to be on my show, you can put it on there.
Yeah.
And there are times emergencies happen and they can't make it. And, either them or their representative or their marketing group or the publishing company then, emails and says, I'm sorry, can we reschedule? But because I'm very busy, I think I've kind of streamlined this to make it the most efficient that I can.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, for me, what the kind of thing what I admire about your setup is the fact that you're using what you know how to use to do what you want to do, and it gets the job done. Some persons they're like, "Oh, everybody's using this fancy software." They don't even know the stuff doesn't even work with them. They don't even know how to use the stuff. At the end of the day, instead of the software to help them become productive, the tool is actually doing the opposite of the whole idea. And I'm like, if you can't use the tool, find something you can use that will get the job done for you.
Yes, even with Zoom, I've created one link. I don't make it too difficult. It's one link you could find me.
Yeah.
That's it. And my Zoom is on waiting list, so people can't just jump in. They have to be on a waiting list. I'm the one who's putting it. So I don't even have to figure this out. Oh my God, this link no longer works, or this is expired, or this link was with this time. No, I have one link. If I'm an appointment with you, I will be there on time. I expect you to be here on time. And that's it. And nobody's going to make a mistake or jump in because even if they jump in, I won't let them in.
Yeah.
So I've made it even easy with Zoom. It's like, there's one link that it goes out. Nobody needs to get confused about links. And somebody even told me, like, send me a calendar. No, I'm not sending you a calendar. I'm sending you a document. Read the document. It's your responsibility to put it on your own calendar. I'm not handling your calendar. You handle your calendar.
Yeah.
And so far, it's been efficient on my end. And it's been efficient on theirs because I communicate very clearly. I put it all in one document. You don't have to now go to such and such and sign a release there and then go to the calendar. So I make it easy for my guests.
Yeah.
They don't have to get an appointment with me on Calendarly and then go somewhere else and, sign a release document. And then, no, it's all one thing right here, one link with an email, and we're all done.
Yeah, I think one of the things over the course of interviewing a ton of podcast hosts for this podcast is one of the things I see as a pattern is that at the end of the day you are the chef of the show. It's your own show, and you get to make the rules. So you can say it's like, well, this is what the way I want it, and if you want to come on my show, if you're not comfortable with it, you don't have to come. It's not by force. You get, and that's the creative freedom, and it's one of the perks of being a podcaster.
Yes, and I'm not charging my guest, and my mission is that if someone is coming, if I accept you to come to my podcast, I will honor you, I will uphold you, I will read your book, I will talk about your book, I will make sure you shine.
Yeah.
But I'm not charging you for this. And the reason I'm doing this is because I've already decided that you have a good information that my audience can use. And I'm doing this gift to my audience. and I'm bringing you and making you shine, and that's a gift to you. So
Yeah.
it's a win-win situation for me. It's a win-win situation for my guest, and it's a win-win situation for my audience.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your workflow. Like it's pretty simple for those listening right now that are overthinking everything. Please, it's not as hard as you think it is. It's pretty simple. Use what you have and what you know how to use to get the job done. And yeah, I want to also like quickly talk about your monetization. I know you're not monetizing through the traditional ads, sponsorships, and all those stuff, but you say you have your own products. Can you like tell us what your product is about in kind of like, so that we know what you offer
Sure.
on the podcast?
Absolutely. I have 6 books. One of them, the sixth one is coming out on May 13th, which is bringing the
Wow.
awareness integration theory into organization development for companies.
Can
So,
can you say the title slowly so that those who are listening and interested in the book can
yes,
get the title?
the title of the book is Awakened Leader.
Okay.
Awakened Leader.
You said
And
something
that's
else.
bring
There was a title you mentioned earlier on. Which book is that?
the, the book title is Awakened Leader, bringing organizational development with
Oh,
awareness integration theory.
yeah.
So the awareness integration theory is a psychological model I created. And then you could use this in different areas. You could use it in order to, better your life. So there's a book called Life Reset, which is for public to read. There's a book called Intentional Parenting, which brings the awareness integration and teaches all parents, grandparents, teachers who work with children and how to work with children and, create amazing, how to raise their children consciously and intentionally. There's also a book that's coming up on the May 13th, which is Awakened Leader, which that brings this awareness integration into companies. So people who have companies, from 5 people all the way to, international thousands and thousands of employees, they can use this model into create better communication, negotiations between departments, between management and the employees. And the employees can also work on their own. So it brings this model into that. So not only that I talk about the books and monetize from that way, but also created an app which is called Foojan App, which is the first of its kind in bringing like coaching into that people's hand. And I'll go through 31 areas of life. And you can do guided journaling and guided meditation through it. And I'll take you through what you do in your life in one area of life, like career, finances, your relationship with your partner, your relationship with your children. So 31 areas of life. And then you also have the Mira, which is the AI chatbot, which is there and you can ask questions. So as you're journaling and you're becoming aware of these angles, then suddenly you can also say, I have some questions on this, or I don't know how to do this. So then you ask the question from the Mira and she will answer you just like I would because it's trained on my model. It
Yeah.
would answer you like as a coach. So 3 o'clock in the morning, you wake up and you're like, I'm too anxious. I don't know how to sleep. Mira, I'm too anxious. How do I get myself to sleep? And it'll give you specific scientific based skills and how to take care of yourself at that moment. So, we talk about the app in it, and then, the advertisements of all of those are there. So it's more about like a space where I can share the world what I do and then what my guests do.
Yeah. So it's more like an ecosystem for your products and also for your guests.
Yes.
Earlier on, you mentioned that you have a marketing team. So I'm kind of curious. Um, your business now. Of course, you're a doctor of psychology, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious. Your team, how big is your team?
My team has changed. At this point, I also made that into an efficient, which I have a team that works on the, 3 websites. And then that company has a team of, I think, 20 that work for them. And then I have one person who only handles my social media. We did hire big companies to handle the marketing for app. And unfortunately, they didn't pan out. And we paid a lot of money. and neither one of them really panned out. So what we're doing with our own marketing, the person who's handling all of our social media, last 2 to 3 months, we've had as good a success as those companies that they charged us $60,000, $70,000. One person is doing better than the whole company did. But at this
Oh,
time, I have a team that handles all the materials for websites, keeps putting them up, keeps adding to them, rechanging and doing whatever they need with the 3 websites. And then also one person who does my social media. It's completely, she takes the clips, she takes all my old clips, brings it back, makes it into a live. There's like, I've had so many years of content on a video that she keeps bringing, and I'm making content every week,
yeah,
right? So I have
yeah,
my own podcast, and I am on everybody else's podcast. So I funnel all of these things to her, and so she also reposts a lot of my content in different ways.
yeah, yeah. Wow, yeah. I guess it's as far as the podcast production is concerned, you are just like you're your own podcast producer, and you're doing everything alongside. So basically, what your team is helping you do now is just once the work is finished, they help just manage and toggle through the social media platforms. And yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I like that. Well, I
Um,
do believe that the things we work on, they also work on us. Now, you've been podcasting now for 2 years, and wait, you said at the beginning, how many number of episodes do you have on your podcast?
Of 398.
Yeah, so I'm trying to do the math in my head. How many episodes do you release in a week?
I do between 1 and 2. The two, so if you're like looking at 52 weeks, that would be like 100.
Yeah.
So there's also like more content that is being put on the podcast. So
Oh, so you're
we
adding your
brought
backlog.
backlog into it. So there's a lot more that's coming into the podcast. But it's been 2 years of just doing the podcast. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, remember I did radio shows. So the
Yeah, yeah,
radio shows were there right before that. I did television shows that were there before that.
yeah, because
Um, so all of those, yeah,
the, the
are
the
there.
the the math wasn't adding up, so I needed to like confirm so that we'll know where the other numbers came from. Okay, yeah, it makes sense now. Yeah. So the question I was going to ask is, I do believe that the things we work on, they also work on us. So the question I want to ask is, apart from business wise, right, which podcasting is like a major lead generation for. But that's true. Other than the app and the books, you don't do like you mentioned earlier on that you're a coach.
Yeah, I'm a therapist and I'm a coach. So I have my own practice. So I have a full practice of people coming to me for individual, for couples, families, business concepts. So
So you
that's where
you
my
you use your podcast to market your wait. I'm kind of you I need you to like help me regarding as a, you have your own practice, right? With like that's
yes,
that's what I can call like your own business.
yes.
Okay. So your major what's like your major like most of the your clients and people that come on to yeah okay to your okay yeah I don't know if I should call it okay, most of your clients that come to you, where is the like the major lead generation? Is it from the podcast or is it from website? Where do they find you?
They hear my podcast, but a lot of them are word of mouth because I've been a therapist for and a coach for 30 years. So a lot of these people are coming because other people told them. But what happens is that when they want to tell somebody, "Oh, I want you to go to Dr. Foujan," they also share like, listen to our podcast or listen because then they get a lot of they get to know me. They get to know who I am. And then they want to come because they've kind of familiarized themselves with who I am, right? Or, somebody comes to me and they're done with their treatment and they go on, and then they can keep being with me through the podcast or the app. So they don't lose me. They all still have my content coming um, through the podcast, and they still can have a lot of the things we've worked on through the app. This way, although I'm not necessarily, I make money obviously from the app, but not the podcast. But it creates a continuity of people getting to know me, and the and that's how they refer. So it's to me, I call it, it's not a direct marketing, it's a non-direct marketing.
Yeah. I mean, for me, for the podcast, I see it that it kind of builds establishes you as a thought leader in the space.
Yes,
So that kinds of increased conversion, and whoever comes to meet you, like they are kind of like they already trust that you are going to deliver. So then the thing the questions they're asking is something that's not does she know what she's talking about?
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So the question I was going to ask before I started asking regarding the coaching and other stuff is how has podcasting kind of changed your life, or yeah, the word change, how's
I
it like
learn a
benefit
lot.
you? Yeah.
Yeah, I learn a lot because everyone who comes to my show is giving me a book to read. They're sharing with me their journey. They're sharing with me who they are. So I learn a lot from professionals who are out there. And, we open up a dialogue together. And this dialogue kind of opens the fact of, bringing my knowledge, bringing their knowledge together and creating a new concept. So I think it enriches my life in that way. And I'm also glad that I have a venue where beyond, if somebody's coming to my sessions or not, or, they come in for 12 sessions or 20 sessions and they're done, like, they're done with their major work. But it doesn't mean you're done with learning. And then so it keeps me connected with the world in this way. And so that's why I learn from my guests and I give back to my audience.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. Like, you just did not hold back, you just shared everything. Thank you so much. Wow. I learned
You're
a lot.
right, man.
Is there any other thing you love to share with us that you feel that I didn't ask a question regarding?
I'm really interested. It's been interesting when I've gone to, for example, places like Podmatch, and I'm flabbergasted with all of the podcasts that are out there. And it's interesting that how much we all have to say. And all I want to say is if you have something to say, your experience is unique to you and it's always valuable. So, if this is what you want to do, if you want to share your unique individual experience and your unique, interest with the world, and you find people who are in the same interest and they come in and you have a dialogue, and this dialogue, elevates the conversation and elevates knowledge for people, please do. Just share with the world who you are. And I think it's different than, just typing up 140 words, because this really allows you to get in depth with conversations and dialoguing with people. It's different than book, because a book is one person sharing something with you, but a dialogue, I think it's more engaging. It's more engaging to have dialogue with people. And every moment that, like you said, sometimes you just, the dialogue opens up by itself. And I remember, like today, I was sharing, I had a, an author called Katie, and she's a psychologist and an author, which she brought kind of spirituality and psychology together. And she was talking about her own journey of this, like, the spirituality. And, it's like, as I'm talking to her for the first time, I'm also like sharing my journey, which on a different level, I wouldn't have never talked about it. But because we're in this dialogue, all of these, experiences that I had and all of the experiences that she had just showed up. And I think that's the beauty of having the ability to have these dialogues on the podcast. So, don't hold back. If this is something you want to do, if you have something to say, if you have something to share, that's fine. Put it
Yeah.
out and let people have a dialogue with you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fujan, for coming and sharing your story. If people want to learn more about you, check out your podcast and what you do, your books and all that, where can they do that?
FoojanZeine.com. FoojanZeine.com. If they want to check out the app, Apple Store and Google Play, or they can go to Foojan.com to check it out. And so those are all available. And my podcast is everywhere that you can find, on your Apple, Google, all of that when you go to podcasts.
Remind us of the name of the podcast again?
Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan. So it could be just heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan. You put my name for Dr. Foojan, it'll pop up.
Wow. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. That's it for today's episode of my podcast story. I am Wisdom Okonkwo, and I hope this conversation sparked new ideas and gave you a deeper look into the heart of podcasting. If you've loved this episode, consider supporting the show by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/wisdomhq. Every bit helps keep the stories going. And hey, don't forget to follow, rate, and share this podcast with another podcaster or creator who would find it helpful. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode.